Ultraxion is this raid tier's DPS and execution check. This guide on Ultraxion covers 10-man in normal mode and was created on the PTR. As such, the skills and abilities may change before it hits live. Our raid composition for this fight consisted of 2 tanks, 3 healers, and 5 DPS. As far as raid positioning goes, we just stacked on top of the tank in order to help with raid heals. This fight is a DPS check, and as such, the DPS requirement is 157.5k DPS in your whole raid for 10-man normal mode. With 5 DPS in the raid, this translates to 31.5k DPS each, not including tank DPS. If you factor in tank DPS, you could probably get away with having players at 27k DPS. Also keep in mind that these numbers are based off the boss health in the PTR realm, so this number will probably change in live, although asking 27k DPS from each raid member does seem pretty realistic and accurate to what it should be on live given the current gear levels. For time and simplicity's sake, I'm going to be splitting this guide up into the 3 different roles in a raid: tank, DPS, and healers. Take a look at the macro listed on the bottom of this video right now. This is important for all players as it activates the Heroic Will ability. Heroic Will pulls the caster out of the Twilight Realm for up to 5 seconds, but renders you unable to attack, cast spells, or move while concentrating. This ability is what allows you to survive certain mechanics throughout the encounter. Let's start with the DPS role. You only have 2 skills to worry about from Ultraxion. The first one is called Fading Light. Fading Light is a debuff on a player that lasts anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds. Upon expiration, if you are still in the Twilight Realm, you will die. In order to combat this, all you have to do is click your Heroic Will button when there is 2 to 3 seconds left on your debuff timer. The second skill from Ultraxion is called Hour of Twilight. This spell is a 5-second cast from Ultraxion which will cause 300,000 unresistible shadow damage to any players in the Twilight Realm. In order to avoid this, again, hit your Heroic Will button right when he starts casting. Next up are the tanks. Tanks have 3 skills to be aware of. The first one is Fading Light, just like the DPS. If you have Fading Light on you, you need to have the inactive tank taunt off of you so that you could fade out of the Twilight Realm and survive. Also keep in mind that upon re-entry into the Twilight Realm, your threat has been reset and you will not generate any threat for 10 seconds. The second ability for tanks is a buff from Thrall called Last Defender of Azeroth. With Last Defender of Azeroth on the tanks, your defensive cooldowns are reduced by 50% and your defensive ability durations are increased by 100%. Keep this in mind for the next skill, Hour of Twilight. Hour of Twilight requires at least 1 raid member to get hit with it. Failing to do so will cause the dragon aspects to die, thus wiping the raid. 1 tank should stay in the Twilight Realm for each Hour of Twilight and pop a major cooldown such as Shield Wall or Guardian of the Ancient Kings in order to survive the hit. Keep in mind that you will still take roughly 150k damage from this hit, and if you're not topped up before or afterwards, you may die. And finally, the healers. Thankfully, you've got some buffs from the dragon aspects that'll help alleviate the pain. Throughout the fight, the dragon aspects will grant you their powers, starting with Alexstrasza, Ysera, finally Kalecgos. To gain their powers, you click the orb that spawns roughly behind the raid. Alexstrasza's crystal spawns first roughly 1 to 1.5 minutes after the beginning of the fight. Alexstrasza's crystal gives you 100% increased healing done for the duration of the battle. We found this most effective to get us to our holy priest in the raid, although a shaman or a disc priest would also benefit well from this. The next crystal that spawns comes from Ysera. Ysera's crystal causes all direct healing done to be duplicated and distributed evenly amongst all friendly targets within 50 yards for the remainder of the battle. This is most effectively used on a holy paladin, but we didn't have one of those, so we gave it to our disc priest. Keep in mind that only direct spells will count towards this buff, so any non-direct healing spells such as Atonement does not benefit from this. Kalecgos is the last crystal to spawn and provides the healer 75% decreased mana cost on all spells and increased spell haste by 100% for the remainder of the battle. We found this beneficial for our Restoration Druid. Healers only have 2 spells to worry about from Ultraxion. Hour of Twilight works just like DPS. When he starts casting it, top up the tanks, fade out of the realm, and survive. The second spell is Unstable Monstrosity. This causes arcs of Twilight energy to erupt from Ultraxion's hide. The arcs inflict 300,000 shadow damage every 6 seconds and is split evenly amongst enemy players in the Twilight Realm and within 30 yards of Ultraxion. Every minute that Ultraxion remains in combat reduces the time between arcs by 1 second to a maximum rate of 1 arc per second. So after 1 minute passes through the fight, he casts this every 5 seconds. After 2 minutes pass, he casts this every 4 seconds. After 3 minutes, every 3 seconds. After 4 minutes, every 2 seconds. And on the last minute of the fight, it's every second. Ultraxion has a hard end rage at 6 minutes and must be dead before then. As you may have guessed, the last minute is the most intense portion of this fight for healers, so it's very important to conserve your mana for the first half of the fight and don't blow all of your cooldowns in the first half. At around 4 minutes and 50 seconds, Nozdormu will activate his skill, which gives all players in the raid a buff called Time Loop. With Time Loop on, any attack which would otherwise kill the player brings them to 100% of maximum health and removes the Time Loop. After Nozdormu activates his Time Loop, the last more unstable warning will occur. Shortly after this, another Hour of Twilight will hit. After players are done with that Hour of Twilight, Bloodlust should be burned and you should have a full burn on the boss. This will also help the healers keep up on that last minute of the fight. This fight is all about proper execution on each individual role in the raid as well as keeping DPS high. Tanks need to focus on taunting off the boss when Fading Light hits the other tank, as well as popping proper cooldowns to survive Hour of Twilight. DPS needs to focus on burning as hard as they can, watching Fading Light debuff, and surviving Hour of Twilight. Healers need to organize who is getting what crystal, as well as surviving Hour of Twilight, as well as the last minute of the fight where it gets really intense. Chain your cooldowns properly, communicate in the raid, execute, DPS hard, heal hard, tank hard, and you win. I hope you enjoyed this guide and good luck with the encounter.